up, everybody? It's Alex, and today we're gonna be talking about the Dave Chappelle special and a bunch of other things. But I think this week's hot take is the Dave Chappelle special that came out. I think like last week. Yeah, it's still this week's hot topic. Uh, I got someone to give a background explanation.
Bunch of new developments over
Hold on.
the past few years, really, but definitely over the past few weeks when his special called The Closer came out on Netflix, obviously. So first, some trans people, I think they just were vocalizing how upset they were. It was a Twitter thing. Oh, this is marginalizing us, it's attacking us, and trans people of color are being attacked everywhere, all this, that, and the third. It was a really big thing from people, just regular normies on the internets, on Twitter, which is not reality, and also at Netflix itself. They're really mad. Then came some trans Netflix employees and their so-called allies. They stormed an executive meeting with 500 people. Not as far as the stormers, 500 deep. The meeting with Netflix bigwigs, the top brass, they were 500 deep in that meeting. And a handful of trans people and their allies went and barged in the meeting to protest Dave Chappelle. And they're like, look, okay, y'all can have y'all little, you guys can have your protest. That's great, that's fine, but don't come in here at this meeting. We're trying to get this bag of money to give to y'all for y'all pay. So y'all need to go ahead and go somewhere else. This is not the place to be. So they got suspended. The ones who did that, I think it was like 3 people that got suspended. So they got suspended for doing that. And then they're going to stage a walkout, right? It was trans employees and their so-called allies, again, staging a walkout, which is going to be Wednesday of this coming up week. That'd be the 20th, if I'm not mistaken. It'd be Wednesday the 20th.
It's time. She's spilling the tea.
This is The Rumor Report with Angela Yee on The Breakfast Club.
Well, Dave Chappelle's latest special on Netflix, The Closer, has caused a lot of controversy. I'm pretty sure he knew that it would. And the National Black Justice Coalition is calling on Netflix to remove the special from the streaming service. Now, immediately after its release, we've been hearing all kinds of things and people weighing in. Some people thought it was absolutely hilarious. Some people had issues with things that Dave said. Now, Glad posted, Dave Chappelle's brand has become synonymous with ridiculing trans people and other marginalized communities. Negative reviews and viewers loudly condemning his latest special is a message to the industry that audiences don't support platforming anti-LGBTQ diatribes. We agree.
Netflix will probably put out some numbers that'll show otherwise.
All right, now here is one of the jokes that they're upset about, and this has to do with J.K. Rowling, who is the Harry Potter author, who claimed that trans women posed a threat to those who were assigned female at birth. To be specific, she posted, if sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. And that's one of the things that she said that got her canceled.
That sounds more complicated than anything she's ever wrote.
It was very complicated.
She wrote Harry
Potter. She goes on to there's a lot more to it, and you have to go back and look at all the tweets that she posted that caused the controversy. But here's what Dave Chappelle had to say in The Closer.
Canceled J.K. Rowling. And they canceled her because she said in an interview, and this is not exactly what she said, but effectually, she said gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as they started calling her a TERF. Stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. This is a real thing. This is a group of women that hate transgender. They don't hate transgender women, but they look at trans women the way we blacks might look at blackface. It offends them. Like, ooh, this bitch is doing an impression of me. I'm Team TERF. I agree. Gender is a fact. Every human being on Earth had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on Earth. I am not saying
Maybe I'll just reference that.
Trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those that they got. I'm not saying it's not, but that's like beyond or impossible. You know what I mean?
And
he's got Charlamagne laughing right now.
It's a good joke. It's a good joke. It's a good joke.
And then the other thing that people had backlash about was his joke about the baby.
The baby was the #1 streaming artist until about a couple weeks ago. Now, you know I go hard in the paint, but even I saw that was like, God damn the baby. Ooh, he pushed the button, didn't he? Punched the LGBTQ community right in the AIDS. But, you know, a lot of the LGBTQ community doesn't know the baby's history. He's a wild guy. He once shot a nigga and killed him in Walmart. Nothing bad happened to his career. Do you see where I'm
Yo.
going? In our country, you can shoot and kill a nigga, but you better not hurt a gay person's feelings.
I told y'all earlier this week that was out of context, though. Like, the baby killed self-defense. His charges were dropped because of the self-defense. It was on camera in Walmart, if I remember the story correctly. He was with his daughter, and some guys tried to run down on him, and they had weapons from the...
Which is all true. What Charlamagne is saying, the God is saying is true. It was in self-defense, and he wasn't charged.
reports I read, so he defended himself.
All the charges were dropped.
Now, Dave's larger point is valid.
Yeah, I think that was the point. That wasn't the point of it. The point of it was that this is okay for your career, and whatever the reason is, the charges were dropped, right? But then you say something it didn't necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the larger point was valid, but the baby's self-defense case was not a valid example.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle's a comedian, though. I mean, I don't think
sure he's a comedian, but guess
fact-checking
what?
with Dave Chappelle.
Yes, sure he's a comedian, but guess what? If you're one of these people who don't really know the baby and you already thought the baby was a monster, now you think he's an even bigger monster because he just randomly killed some person in Walmart. No, that's not how that went down. It was self-defense.
Okay, so anyway, they are asking for this to be taken off of Netflix, The Closer.
Why would Netflix do that now?
That's not gonna happen.
Dave's what six special?
I think that people are already aware of Dave Chappelle's jokes. And by the way, I noticed people didn't focus on what he had to say about Daphne, and that's how he ended The Closer. I don't know if you all watched it.
Yeah, that
yet,
Dave Chappelle special.
but Daphne was a trans woman
Dave
who's a
Chappelle
comedian
specials.
who he
Golden.
befriended and who was supportive of him, and she was shunned from the LGBTQ community because of her support for Dave Chappelle. He actually let her perform on stage, and it's very interesting how he tells the story. But what he was saying is she was shunned and ended up, taking her own life because of being shunned from her own community. So it is important for people to be able to have these discussions. If anything, if you don't agree with Dave Chappelle, at least what he's saying. I mean, he's a comedian.
And by the way, there's other things on that special you could really be outraged about. I mean, I'm not, I don't think they watched it.
Yeah, I think it was taken out of context.
Okay.
Dave Chappelle's a comedian. At the end of the day, he pushes the limit.
He's more than a
doesn't even
comedian.
attempt.
He's a comedian, and he's one of the biggest
He's a
voices we
genius when
got
it
out
comes to
here.
it.
I mean, if you don't like
him,
it, just
turn
don't
off.
listen.
Yeah,
Word
I'll say the
up.
same thing. If you don't like it, turn it off. That's
Like,
it.
I don't know what we hope to accomplish with any of this.
I don't know either.
Like, what can you do? He's buying his own comedy club. He got.
That's
You're not going to
like,
silence
what are you
him.
gonna do?
Netflix is not taking his special down. Netflix, the last special caused the controversy. Netflix didn't take it.
Some
And by
people
the way,
don't.
let's
Some
be
people
clear.
don't. Who
I'm sure
cares?
Dave is smart enough and quite aware to know that this is going to cause controversy.
But Dave don't
he was
care.
saying,
He does
they
his
ain't going to
comedy.
cancel me after this one.
And here's the other thing.
24.1 million?
Be malicious. And the intention is to be
Funny. Yeah, absolutely.
And it is funny.
It is.
Okay.
All right. Well, that is your rumor report.
That special is funny in like a bully flaming you up at school way. I feel like if I play this, it's gonna get taken down. 100% gonna get taken down. No. Alright, not Netflix. YouTube's definitely we're gonna watch it, guys. Just YouTube stops me. YouTube stops me. I'm sorry.
Oh, buddy, I'm in trouble now.
Oh no.
Before I go, I want to share this story with you because it's important to this point. I want your community to know that one of the coolest people I ever met was a transgender woman. And this is not a man that I knew that became a woman. This woman was trans when I met her. Lived in San Francisco. Daphne Dworman is her name. I would do 18 shows in the Bay Area, sometimes in Oakland and Dirty Hood nightclub, and she would be there, a white trans woman, laughing loud and hard at everything I said, especially the trans jokes. It's very puzzling. Because she was obviously trans. And one night after one of the shows, I met her. And what it was, turns out, it was her dream to be a comedian. And I was her hero. It's very moving. I could not dislike somebody that felt that way about me. We became fast friends. And when I made that special Sticks and Stones, right as it was coming out, I happened to be in San Francisco and I wanted to do a show, but I needed an opening act. And I remembered that trans woman I'd met. So I called her on the phone. And I called her myself. I said, hey, Daphne, this is Dave Chappelle. She couldn't believe it. And I go, I'm in San Francisco. And then she started saying a bunch of wild stuff. I was like, relax now. I don't want any pussy. I was I was calling because I'm doing a show and I need an opening act. And I was wondering if you'd open the show. And she was like, fuck yeah. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but this woman had only done stand-up comedy 8 times in her life. This is little to no experience. And now she's about to open a show for what many call the GOAT.
I agree. In my eyes, Dave Chappelle's at least this generation's GOAT, if not the greatest of all time.
She's an amateur in stature, but in practice, she was very professional. She showed up early, which is something I appreciate, because I like people to be on time. She was dressed to the motherfucking nines. I mean, I'm transphobic, and even I was like, you look nice. Went up on the stage with all the swag of a professional comedian, grabbed that mic and walked right down the middle and looked at the crowd like a gangster. Man, you should have seen her work. This bitch bombed for 45 minutes straight. And I am not exaggerating, young man. That show was terrible. Stunk. And then she brings me on, and you know, I was like a glass of water after a handful of salt. The crowd was happy to see me. I was killing it. But here's what impressed me. Any other comedian I've ever seen, if they had bombed as bad as she did, would have snuck out of the back of the theater and went home and cried or something. And she didn't do that. Not only did she not leave, she found a seat right up in front. You know, when a new comedian watches an experienced comedian in comedy, we call this taking class. And this bitch took my whole class. She sat up there and was laughing as hard as she always laughs, as if nothing bad had even happened to her. And I saw her show. Something bad happened to her. She was drunk. So she starts talking to me while I'm on stage, but the way a person would talk to a television when they were alone. She's talking to me like that. That didn't bother me because I knew her, but the crowd didn't like that shit at all because she sucked.
Hey guys, check out my poll in the chat. I want to know what you guys think. And let me know what you think of Dave's special so far.
And a guy in the back of the room stood up, and Daphne's hair was dyed blonde at the time, and the guy screamed out, and his energy felt wild as fuck. He said, hey, Daphne! And everybody kind of clamped, like got tense. We didn't know if it was a heckler or an active shooter. And he said, does the carpet match the drapes? Yeah, it was fucked up. The whole crowd kind of groaned because it was so, like, mean. Everybody groaned, except for Daphne. She kind of laughed, which was weird. And then she didn't even look all the way back. She said, sir, I don't have carpets. I have hardwood floors. Just like that. Just like that.
No.
And boy, when she said that shit, it blew the roof off the place. Cut through all the tension. With that one joke, she made up for 45 minutes of a stinker of a show. And after that, she could do no wrong. And I kept on rocking. She kept on talking to me. And then the show became something cooler than a show. It became like a conversation between a black man and a white trans woman, and we started getting to the bomber shit. All them questions that you think about that you'd be afraid to ask, I was just asking them, and she was answering them, and her answers were funny as shit. The crowd was falling out of their chairs. And at the end of the show, I go, oh, Daphne, I said, well, that was fun. I go, I love you to death, but I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. The whole crowd laughed, except for Daphne. Now she looks at me like I'm not her friend anymore. Like I'm something bigger than me, like I'm the whole world and a guy. And she said, I don't need you to understand me. I said, what? She said, I just need you to believe, just like this, she goes, that I'm having a human experience. And when she said it, the whole crowd kind of gasped. And I gave it a Fight Club look. I said, I believe you, bitch. Because she didn't say anything about pronouns. She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it. And oh, I believe you because it takes one to know one.
See, is he so bad? Is Dave Chappelle really that bad of a person?
Then I told the crowd good night, and they start going crazy. And before the applause gets to its crescendo, I say, and don't forget my opening act, Daphne. And the crowd stood up, and I looked at her, and tears came out of her eyes. She couldn't believe it was happening. I couldn't believe it was happening because her show stunk. And it was a great night. I remember the late, great Paul Mooney was there, a bunch of fly-ass comedy niggas was there. And we all went backstage and was just drinking and talking shit and laughing, and Daphne stole the room. She had everyone cracking up, spinning the yarn, telling us all these crazy stories about shit she be into. We all laughing real hard, and as she's telling us and everyone's laughing, I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God, she is funny. I pulled her aside and I said, you're hilarious. I didn't know that when you were on stage. I said, you're doing some things wrong, but I can help you. I said, anytime I'm in San Francisco, why don't you open the show for me, and I'll just try to give you some pointers, see if you can't work this thing out. And she said, are you serious? I was like, yeah. And she grabbed me real tight, hugged me, squeezed me, and I pushed her all violently because I'm transphobic. I said, boundaries, bitch. When Sticks and Stones came out, a lot of people in the trans community were furious with me, and apparently they dragged me on Twitter. I don't give a fuck, because Twitter's not a real place.
Damn, yo.
And the hardest thing for a person to do is go against their tribe if they disagree with their tribe. But Daphne did that for me. She wrote a tweet that was very beautiful, and what she said was, it was almost exactly what she said. She said, punching down on someone requires you to think less of them. And I know him, and he doesn't. He doesn't punch up, he doesn't punch down, he punches lines, and he's a master at his craft. That's what she said. Beautiful tweet, beautiful friend. It took a lot of heart to defend me like that. And when she did that, the trans community dragged that bitch all over Twitter. For days, they was going in on her, and she was holding her own because she's funny. But 6 days after that wonderful night I described to you, my friend Daphne killed herself. Oh, yeah. It's a true story. My heart was broken. Yeah, it wasn't the jokes. I don't know if it was them dragging her. I don't know what's going on in her life, but I bet dragging her didn't help. I was very angry at them. I was very angry at her. I felt like Daphne lied to me. She always said she identified as a woman, and then one day she goes up to the roof of a building and jumps off and kills herself. Clearly, only a man would do some gangster shit like that. Hear me out. As hard as it is to hear a joke like that, I'm telling you right now, Daphne would have loved that joke. That's why she was my friend.
Shit.
I was reading her obituary, and I found out she was survived by a daughter. And the moment I found that out, and this is true, Anderson Cooper from CNN texted me. And all he said was very nice. He said, I'm sorry to hear about your friend. And I texted him right back, new phone, who this? He said, it's Anderson Cooper. I said, oh. I said, Anderson. I go, look, I need to find her family. And he texted me right back with all the phone numbers and all this information. I say this to say, if you ever want to know about anything gay, call Anderson Cooper from CNN. This nigga is faster than Google. And what I did is I got in touch with her family and I started a trust fund for her daughter, because I know that's all she ever really cared about. And I don't know what the trans community did for her, but I don't care, because I feel like she wasn't their tribe. She was mine. She was a comedian in her soul. Her daughter is very young, but I hope to be alive when she turns 21, because I'm going to give her this money myself. And by then, I'll be ready to have the conversation that I'm not ready to have today. But I'll tell that little girl, young lady, I knew your father. And he was a wonderful woman.
Oh, snap, I didn't even peep this. That was a trans woman with a daughter. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Empathy is not gay. Empathy is not black. Empathy is bisexual. It must go both ways. It must go both ways. Remember, taking a man's livelihood is akin to killing him.
Hey everyone, I appreciate you guys watching. Please leave a like on the video and sub to my page for more content.
I'm begging you, please do not abort the baby. Kevin Hart dreamt his entire life of hosting the Oscars, and when he finally got the job, they just took it.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It's not fair. They didn't kill him. Kevin's a strong guy. But I'm sure it broke old Clifford's heart. It's over. LBGTQ, LMNOP, QIZ, it is over. I am not telling another joke about you until we are both sure that we are laughing together. I'm telling you, this is done. I'm done talking about it. All I ask from your community, with all humility, will you please stop punching down on my people? Thank you very much, and good night.